Hello, my name is John Taylor, and I'm the state coordinator for National History Day in Maine. The reason I am talking to you is because of the type of experiences that you are having today, learning new skills and exploring resources that you've never heard before. Well, that has a lot in common with the National History Day project experience. While I can't show you all the amazing projects that Maine students have created, we did pull together a few clips that seem to fit the theme of this
Hello,
conference.
I'm Kate Busco,
And I'm Caroline Sada.
and we just finished making a documentary about the Clean Water Act for the National History Day competition.
We've been involved with NHD since 8th grade. That's 5 years. We've learned a lot about history, but also about video production, interviewing, and how to conduct research.
We love creating documentaries. I started out using iMovie, a free app on Apple computers and something most of you are probably familiar with. Sophomore year, I switched to a professional editing software called Final Cut Pro. With iMovie, I familiarized myself with basic techniques for documentary production, which helped me learn how to use Final Cut.
Documentaries have many components. We combine photographs, documents, interviews, and video clips to tell a story. Much of our research involves historical documents and archival material, so the Ken Burns effect has become our best friend.
We use our phones to scan documents and photographs. The camera you keep in your back pocket should not be underestimated. Use the tools you have on hand. Simple can be effective.
There are many ways to interview people, but Zoom has simplified the process because many people became familiar with it during the pandemic. You can interview and record anyone from anywhere, so no in-person meeting is necessary.
Making documentaries for NHD has given us the freedom to explore topics that interest us and to use the technology around us. It requires creativity and problem solving.
We are going to show you a clip from this year's documentary. It focuses on Maine Senator Ed Muskie's role in the Clean Water Act. Keep an eye out for how we used camera zooming and Muskie's audio from the 1970s to tell the story. So, without further ado,
if we resist change because it's more comfortable not to, then we will not come to grips with this problem. And that is our great challenge. And I'm sure we'll respond to it, but we're going to have a great many fights in the process.
In the 1970s, Edmund Muskie fought to pass the Clean Water Act, which centralized federal power, introduced ambitious goals, and encouraged citizens to become environmental stewards. Breaking through this legislative frontier changed our nation's fundamental assumptions about water.
throughout American history, factories were the center of communities who depended on the jobs they provided. However, industrial progress exploits natural resources, including waterways, which are used to dispose of waste. Because of water's economic value, Americans saw the degradation of rivers as a necessary sacrifice.
You look at the river and it's blue today, or it's, green or red or any, whatever chemicals are tossing into the river, that's the color of the river.
Growing up on Maine's polluted Androscoggin River in the 1920s, Ed Muskie saw abuses of industry, but recalled that we didn't think about pollution. The word wasn't part of our everyday vocabulary, and it was hardly in the public dialogue.
Throughout the early 20th century, state governments sporadically addressed pollution, but water quality standards drove industry away.
States, essentially the states or localities were competing with each other economically. It was a mess.
The first national law to address water pollution was the 1948 Federal Water Pollution Control Act, which was weakly enforced and only applied to interstate waters. Still, pollution control remained a largely local issue as water quality was not deemed important enough for extensive federal regulation. For cleaner water, America's priorities had to change.
National History Day is a program that encourages middle and high school age students to do independent historical research and present their findings to professionals in the museum, library, and historical field. They can do so in one of 5 ways: with a documentary, a paper, website, exhibit, or performance. Learning is cross-curricular, project-based, and teaches a multitude of world-ready skills. The program is a contest-tiered system starting at a regional level to our state contest at UMaine in Orono and the national contest at the University of Maryland every year. National History Day in Maine is sponsored by the Margaret Chase Smith Library, the University of Maine, the Maine Masonic College, and the Maine Humanities Council. To learn more, visit our webpage at mcslibrary.org.
discovery of the North Pole on the 6th of April, 1909, by the last expedition of the Peary Arctic Club, for which through centuries men of every nation have struggled and suffered and died, is won at last and is to be worn forever by the Stars and Stripes.
By 1900, close to 800 men had died attempting to reach the North Pole. It had become the fixation of the world, not only because it was one of the last geographic frontiers, but being the first at the pole had become a symbol of national pride. In 1909, after 18 years of preparation and several failed attempts, Matthew Alexander Henson, Admiral Robert E. Peary, and 4 Inuit became the first people to reach the geographical North Pole. Not only did they break this frontier in exploration, and break a cultural frontier by being the first to adopt Inuit techniques, but they also broke a racial frontier because Henson, an African American, was Peary's right-hand man at a time when racism was pervasive in America.